We're here with Noah and Alex from Alien Earth. Thank you so much for joining us.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Noah, tell us how this project came about.
Well, it started as a conversation with FX, who I've worked with for a very long time. And they said, if we could get Alien for television, do you have an idea? And the problem with me is if you ask me if I have an idea, I'm going to have an idea. And so I did very quickly have an idea that became this show. But it took a couple of years to get the rights. But what was nice is, you stew on it for a couple of years and then you go back to it and you see if it holds up. And, all the elements that you watch were in that original.
Well, we've seen the pilot and it's amazing. We'll be general regarding details, but Joelle?
Yeah, I am obsessed with the pilot. I've had such a good time watching it. I was telling Jason earlier that I've had to sit on my hands and my father's a huge Alien fan. And so I've been thinking about when I get the chance to talk to him about it, what's the first thing I want to talk about? And I want to talk about hiding the alien in the frame.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about how much of that is initially in the script and how much of that is you working with your cinematographer, and talk to me about how you worked that into the horror element of it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the brilliant things about having H.R. Giger on the movie, not just creating the creatures, is, his design infused the whole movie. And so when you watch Alien, what you realize is that all the shapes on the ship are evocative of the creature itself. So you're never really sure when you're seeing it and when you're not. And that was certainly an inspiration for us. And then, I'm big on character reveals. I think that when you introduce a character, you have to make them iconic. And so it was really important to me that first moment that you really see the xenomorph is a movie star moment. I can report from Hall H that it did exactly what I wanted.
Report from my computer did exactly. I was like, oh my God. I was screaming the whole time. I loved watching the pilot. Well, speaking of big, character reveals and first time, Alex, you play CJ, who I immediately fall in love with. He's such a sweet, precious boy. Talk a little bit about, and in the show, he's kind of the only grounded human. We're dealing with cyborgs and we're dealing with billionaire boy princes and stuff. And here comes CJ and he's very grounded and morally centered. For you, as that sort of center, how was that for you as an actor? And how did you feel about your reveal of this character?
Yes, poor hermit. Misnomer. CJ, I don't know where it's come from. He's called Joe DiMaggio in full, after the baseball player. And then somewhere along the line that's become CJ. But anyway, Hermit has been left thinkingly alone without his family. He's been separated from his sister Wendy, and therefore I think there's a sense that he's missing of a motor, of a reason to move throughout the world.
Yeah.
But Alex and I talked a lot. There's a couple of animated movies that are referenced in but one that you don't see physically on screen that Alex and I talked about was Wall-E. Because I said, I want him to, he's alone, but he's not sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a sense that there's a proceduralness to what he's doing, and he's getting through. He lives in this particular humanity minus world. He lives sort of in the underbelly of the planet that we find him in, on this Earth that is set in the future from here. And he's kind of just getting on with life by obligation rather than by choice, and he's part of the military but a medic. Yeah, and then sort of, I suppose, the carpet of that day-to-dayness of his life is ripped out from underneath him when all the action kicks.
Noah, Alien is not a series that one would usually think of as containing music drops, contemporary music drops, but there's some wonderful ones in the series, including songs by Metallica, by Tool, by Nina Simone. Tell me about the decision to do that.
When you're making something for the fans, it's about a feeling, a big feeling, right? And I made the decision that, each episode is a bit of a cliffhanger, right? And what's going to launch you out of an episode should be the feeling of, I'm exhilarated. I can't wait for more. I just started putting these songs in, these classic, big anthemic, metal or hard rock songs that exist like Alien itself, in this classic sphere, and the combination of that needle drop, those visuals, that moment, and that smash to black, it becomes really a big feeling, and I think, looking at the fan base of Alien, these are some rockers. I mean, literally in the movie, Aliens, they go, "Let's rock."
Yeah.
Right. So that's my motto.
Where's Basket? Let's rock!
Something we've been talking a lot, Jason and I, on our podcast is like what defines science fiction. It's the conversation we've been going back and forth. We talked a little bit about it on our panel here. And you use an Asimov quote in the show, which essentially is like, at one point, technology becomes so advanced, it's magic. Mm-hmm. And given the advanced nature of the technology in this show, I was curious, do you view Alien, the franchise, as more science fiction or more fantasy? And did that have an impact on how you were, crafting the show?
What I love about the first two movies is they exist in the sort of retro futuristic sense. You have these cathode tube ray televisions and the ASCII text, and certainly in Prometheus, I guess Ridley decided that he didn't want to do that anymore, even though it was a prequel. That now the technologies are holograms and it's very advanced and everything. But for me, that's the identity of Alien. And it is science fiction in that it's speculative, and I do think that, so much of what the future that we've evolved into is what was created by science fiction writers and filmmakers in the 60s and 70s, et cetera. So for me, it was just trying to create a version of the future that felt plausible, one or two steps ahead of where we are right now, and where we're grappling with very similar issues to what we're grappling right now. But, I'm rooting for us here on the planet Earth. And let's see what happens when we introduce an apex predator. Maybe that'll whip us into shape.
Alex, tell me about creating the character. Was there a moment when you thought, I think I've got my arms around CJ, and what drives him?
I think it really was my first days filming with Sydney Chandler, who plays Wendy, who is, I play her sibling. There was something, and I think this happens sometimes until you've sort of worked out your through line and your place as a character in a story, things can be slightly, there's a sort of fuzziness. And being on set with Sydney for the first day, and it was, maybe a couple of weeks into filming, something became crystal clear as to what I was doing there, who my character thought he had to protect, and the tension that then grows out of that. Because Wendy was formerly known to Hermit as Marcy, and was a girl, a 9-10-year-old girl. Is that right?
She's 12 in the show,
She's
but
12.
but you probably haven't seen her for...
Yeah, since that time. And therefore I'm meeting someone who I remember in a totally different shell as this hybrid human. And all this care that I feel for this person, where do I put it? Because she's now more than human.
Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Noah and Alex, for joining us.
Thank you.